You know, sometimes the biggest secrets are hidden in plain sight. In the ancient text of Genesis, there are these powerful Hebrew words that are almost like an inner map for our lives. And today, we're going to unlock one of the most mysterious ones, a single word, one that's usually just ignored, but it might just hold the key to how you build your entire future.
So really think about that for a second. What if a hidden word, one that doesn't even show up in most Bibles, was actually a key? Not just any key, but a key to this inner dimension where all your potential isn't just sitting there, but it's being actively organized and built. That's exactly the mystery we're diving into today.
Okay, so the word is F. In the original Hebrew, right there in Genesis, it pops up between the words formed and man. But, and this is the crazy part, in most Bibles, it's just gone. Like poof, they don't even translate it. But in the spiritual framework we're exploring, F is so much more than some forgotten word. It's the key to an entire inner dimension, a space that's directly wired into our ability to hope.
All right, so you'd probably think that stepping into your dimension of hope would be, all sunshine and rainbows, right? Well, that's not exactly how it went down. Not at first, anyway. When Daniela, who is the source for all this, first opened that inner door, what she found on the other side was the complete opposite of hope.
I mean, her description of it is just, wow. It's so visceral. She said it was like her feet were trapped in thick tar. She couldn't move at all. The whole place felt like a cemetery for dreams. And then right in front of her was this massive wall, a wall of disbelief. This wasn't some space of possibility. No way. It was a prison built out of hopelessness.
So the big question is, why? Why was it this horrible swamp? Well, she traced it all the way back to her very beginnings. She felt that because there wasn't a full agreement between her parents about her conception, she was basically born without a proper container for her own hopes. And this reveals something so profound, right? It shows that before we can use these inner spaces for what they're meant for, we often have to clear out all the old junk, the deep-seated trauma. It starts out as a place of captivity.
But here's the good news. This shows that these inner states are not set in stone. They're not permanent. To get out of that swamp, she had to do the work. She had to take conscious action. And that meant, first, consciously forgiving her parents. Then, breaking these old, unspoken agreements she had with despair. And finally, just clearing the whole place out to make room for something new.
And once she did that really crucial inner work, everything changed. The whole landscape just transformed. And the true purpose of this eighth dimension was finally revealed. And let me tell you, it was something else entirely.
I mean, the shift was just incredible. The swamp of despair, that wall of disbelief, it all just dissolved. And in its place, a huge warehouse, a functional space, A place for storage, for inventory, for getting things organized. It went from being a place where she was stuck to a place of pure, active potential.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The warehouse was there, but look at the state it was in. It was like some dusty, obsolete office from the 1950s. We're talking old yellowed papers, a rotary dial phone, a vintage typewriter, the whole deal. And of course, these weren't just random objects. They were symbols of all her outdated beliefs, the old ways of thinking she'd inherited. The space was functional, sure, but it wasn't up to date. It didn't reflect who she was now.
So it was time for another round of work. But this wasn't a rescue mission anymore. This was a renovation. And the big breakthrough was realizing that the angelic beings she saw in there, they were there to work for her. She was the boss, so she started giving orders. Get rid of this old furniture, which of course meant discarding limiting beliefs. Clean out all this dust, getting rid of old unhelpful thoughts. And then she had them bring in new tools, things like computers and cameras, that actually represented her work and her vision for the future.
And this gets us to the absolute core of what this F dimension is all about. The revelation she received was in Spanish, Donde crecen tus esperanzas, which means, where your hopes grow. Think about that. This isn't some dusty attic where you just store old memories. No, it's an active headquarters. It's a workshop where you lay out the blueprints, organize the tools, and actually build your legacy.
Okay, so this brings up a really important question, right? If this place is your future's headquarters, what are you supposed to put in it? Because it turns out, not everything belongs there. This next part is all about learning a kind of spiritual discernment.
So, let's make this personal for a minute. If you were to look inside your own headquarters, what would you find? Is it filled with blueprints and tools for the future, or is it cluttered with stuff from the past? The story from Rodrigo, the co-author of this material, gives us a perfect, and I mean really powerful example of this.
So Rodrigo goes into his own warehouse, and who does he find there?
his beloved dog Poopy. Now, he adored this dog, but he had this sudden, clear realization. Poopy represented comfort, consolation, a really strong attachment to the past, and that didn't belong in the place where he was supposed to be building his future. See, this space is meant for your legacy, things like your children, your studies, your skills, the projects you're working on. It's not supposed to be a sentimental storage unit for things that make you feel cozy.
And you know what's fascinating? This isn't just Daniela's or Rodrigo's experience. The source material is filled with examples showing that even though the specific imagery changes from person to person, the purpose of this inner space is always the same. It's incredibly consistent.
So, for example, one woman named Belinda saw a clear vision of herself teaching. That was her core aspiration. Another woman, Maurice, saw a room full of dolls, and each one represented her hope to heal the broken relationships she had with her sisters. And then there was Keelan, who saw a car that was totally stuck, with a voice telling him, "You will fail," a perfect symbol for the fear that was blocking his own hope.
So you see the pattern here, right? Whether it shows up as a warehouse, a garden, or a car stuck in the mud, it doesn't matter. The theme is always the same. This is your inner workshop for the future. It's the place where you either get to work building your hopes, or you're forced to confront the very things that are holding you back.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What does all of this really mean for us? Well, it's huge, because understanding this F dimension completely changes how we think about hope itself.
Most of us think of hope as this passive feeling, right? It's just something you either have or you don't. But this framework, it suggests something totally different. It's about active hope. Hope isn't a feeling, it's an inner space, a structure that you are in charge of. It's a place that you have to consciously build, clean, and organize. It takes work.
So, bottom line, this place isn't just where you store your dreams. It's where you build them. It's the construction site. It's the workshop. It's the place where your plans and your inspiration finally come together to create something real.
And just to bring this all full circle, let's go back to the word itself, F. It's spelled with two Hebrew letters, Aleph, which is the very first letter of the alphabet, and Tav, which is the very last, the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega. All of that is packed into this one tiny overlooked word.
And so that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If your own space of hope contains both the beginning and the end, what kind of future are you designing in there? In your own inner headquarters, right now, what are you building? Definitely something to think about.